What's up, everybody? It's Sports and Seltzer, and we are back with a podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the NBA Finals. Now that the NBA postseason is coming to a close, we got Tyler over there. We got Darren over there. How you fellas doing?
Doing good, bro.
Doing good. Ready to get this going.
All right, well, let's talk about this Finals matchup. All right, fellas, we got the 8 seed Miami Heat. Thank you very much. They made it. I don't know how, but they made it. Going against the 1 seed Denver Nuggets, who, let's be honest, if we look back at our predictions, none of us had this Finals. I think we all had the Bucks Suns. I think all three of us did. So we were all a little bit off. All right, well, let's talk about this. We want to break down who you think's going to win and how many games. Let's start off with Tyler. Who you got?
So I can't believe Miami's in it. First of all, it's one of those Cinderella stories that's just mind blowing. Honestly, it couldn't have been a worse matchup. Honestly, this is pretty much as a nightmare matchup as possible. You know, Miami's a really small team going against what should have been the MVP. I think Bam's just going to have to do his best, try and hold him under probably 25. But even, you know, if the Joker, if he gets held under 25, he impacts the floor in so many other ways. If he's not scoring, he's going to have crazy assists. He's going to rack up a ton of rebounds. But even if they can contain him, I think he's been playing like Bubble Murray. So I think Miami's magical Cinderella story is kind of going to come to an end. They might be able to squeeze one game out. Jimmy did put the team on his back during the last finals run, which was in 2020 against LA. But I just don't see how Miami can get four. I don't see how Miami can get 2 wins in this series. So I think their crazy run is going to come to an end unless they shock the world like they've been all playoffs. Just one of those Cinderella stories, kind of like Cincinnati Bengals a couple years ago. But this is a tough matchup, and I think Denver is going to win in 5. I won't say a sweep, but I'll say 5.
Gentlemen sweep.
All right, so you're giving the Heat one game.
It might be maybe if Jimmy keeps playing besides those couple of games against Boston, if Jimmy plays like that, I mean, yeah, they might be able to squeeze one game out.
Well, let me ask you this, Tyler. You said one game, right?
Yep.
For the Heat to win this series, let's say, how many points per game do you think Jimmy would have to average?
Oof. I think Jimmy's going to have one of those crazy 35-plus point games. I mean, with Strus, Vincent, if Hero comes back, Robinson, if he doesn't think about his shot, maybe it'll make him.
He needs a hand in his face sometimes, I'm telling you.
Not dribble.
I really don't think Robinson should have took that dribble. I think in Game 6, I think Robinson makes it if he just catches and shoots right away. He doesn't seem like the type of person that can sit there and think about a shot. He should have just chucked it up. But, I mean, Miami does have a lot of firepower, which is crazy to think. They're all undrafted firepower, you know. But I mean, if they can hit from the 3-point line, I mean, if their scores are on, I think they can win without strictly Jimmy, I guess. So I kind of go back on what I said earlier. But, as long as all that firepower is hitting from 3, then, yeah, I can see them pulling out a game. But when is Hero coming back? Is that known?
So Hero is supposed to be coming back Game 3, it's looking like. So it won't be in Denver, but it's looking like Game 3 will come back in Miami.
He'll come back down 0-2.
Yeah, for sure. Also, are you excited about that for Hero to come back?
So,
are you worried that it's going to kind of throw it off a little bit or what?
So I am a little worried that it could throw things off. The issue is, though, for me is that, and I'll get to my prediction later, but we're going to have to outscore the Denver Nuggets. And if we don't have Hero, we have no chance of outscoring the Denver Nuggets as it is, because he is 20 points a game during the regular season. And I know we've scored during the postseason, but we're going to need that, even that extra 20 on top of what we were already scoring against Boston. We're pretty much going to need that too. So I think we have to have him. And he creates his own shot. That's another thing too. He can drive. He can mid-range three-pointers. He creates his own shot when we don't have anything flowing on offense. So I think we definitely need him. The one person I am worried about it for, I guess, is Caleb Martin. Like, I don't want it to affect him because of how on he's been. I do not want him returning to have an effect on that. I think we see less Kyle Lowry. I think Lowry pretty much gets eliminated from the rotation.
Exactly, because you're not taking Struce's minutes. You're not taking Caleb Martin's minutes. Maybe a little bit Duncan Robinson if he's shooting threes like that in the game, but got to take somebody out. And not Vincent. He's playing great. It's got to be Lowry.
All right, so we got Tyler with the Denver Nuggets in 5, a gentleman sweep. All right, Darren, who you got for this matchup?
All right, so we started off the podcast last week. I got you, Ross. Started off the podcast a couple weeks ago in the beginning, and I said that he'd be lucky to pick up a game against Milwaukee. And people are trying to give y'all an asterisk, Ross. They're trying to say that Giannis was hurt. Giannis played. Giannis scored. He was fine. You guys took it to the Milwaukee Bucks, and you guys won that series, right? So upset number 1. Then you guys went and played New York, who was like storybook season. Garden's back. New York's going crazy. Blah blah blah. Right? Took care of them. I think in 6. Right? Ended that series. Moved on. Went up 3-0 on the Celtics. And even up 3-0, everybody still thought y'all were going to blow it, right? And y'all almost still did blow it. 3 in a row, went back to the TD Garden and took care of business there. So, we've been counting them out the entire postseason. And now they're going to play the 1 seed Denver Nuggets, who, on paper, Tyler touched on it. Bam's going to guard Jokic, what I think is a big mismatch. I love Bam, Kentucky. But Jokic should be the 3-time MVP right now. I think the only reason he wasn't the MVP is he hasn't been to a conference finals yet, an NBA finals yet. He hasn't won a conference finals yet. So you can't give somebody 3 MVPs in a row who hasn't done that. And then you look down their roster and you got Jamal Murray, who if he's playing like this, won't be a series going to end in 4 games. And then you got, if you go deeper, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., that Bruce Brown guy's playing well. I don't even know who the heck that is, but he's playing well. KCP, who can magically shoot. Brooklyn, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Crazy that team sucked. And then you got KCP, who can magically shoot all of a sudden out of his LA. I look at the spread, 8.5 for game 1 in favor of the Nuggets. And, I think one of the big reasons why the Heat were able to squeak past the Celtics is Spoelstra is that much better coach than Mazzulla was. He's definitely a better coach than Malone, but not by as big of a margin. So I think it's going to be hard. Denver's the 1 seed. They have home court advantage. They're going to have to play at altitude for minimum 2 games, probably more like 4 games. They're going to have to play up in altitude. So it's all pointing to Denver taking the series. I'm going to be honest with you, Ross. I was cheering for the Heat. I picked Milwaukee. I picked New York. I picked the Celtics. And I came in tonight and I was like, man, the Nuggets 4-5, like lucky to get 5. I'm going to stop counting out the Miami Heat, bro. I'm telling you right now, Heat in 7. They're going to figure out a way. Caleb Martin's going to keep doing what he's doing, 25 a game. I need 30 night from Jimmy Butler. And I need the Kentucky product, Tyler Hero, maybe coming off the bench. Who knows? But he's got to get in the mix by game 3. And he's going to need at least 20 a night. I think if those 3 guys continue to show up and Bam, I don't know if you can hold Jokic to 225, but you got to do something with it. You got to slow him down. I think that the Nuggets might be counting out the Heat as well. I think we saw that with the Bucks. I think we saw that with the Celtics. I don't know about New York because they weren't like quite the prowess of those 2 teams. I'm sure they're going to come ready to play. The one thing that does scare me is, I didn't watch a ton of NBA basketball this year. I watched the Kings a lot, and the Kings looked pretty good on most nights. When we played Nuggets, oh my God, it's like you just couldn't do anything, and they shot the lights out. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Heat were the lowest scoring playoff team this year and the worst 3-point shooting team this year, which has definitely improved in the playoffs. They're both those metrics are way up. But are they going to progress towards the mean and go back to shooting that way against Denver in the finals, or are they going to keep where they're at? I think they keep where they're at. I think Jimmy Butler's a dog, and I think he gets the ring this year. Heat in 7.
That actually shocks me, Darren. I came on here expecting both of you to say Nuggets in 5 or maybe even 4.
I mean, you did pick the Warriors.
I did. Yeah, I did pick the Warriors. That is true. I did pick the Warriors. In 6, though, so Kings, you
Fair.
know. And
Fair.
back to that real quickly too, because Tyler was completely right. Because I remember I was like, "Oh, if it's fine if it goes back to home." And Tyler was like, "No, we do not want to see Golden
Yep.
State come to Golden One in Game 7." And that was
Yep.
you
And
know,
of course,
was
it
in
was
the same
Curry that
place.
went off like that too.
Yep.
yeah.
I think I said it. I don't remember if it was on the podcast or if we were just talking, but I said if it goes to 7, Curry's going to drop 50 and rip our hearts out. And
You
he
might
dropped
have said
50
that.
and he ripped our hearts out. I'm not going to watch it back, but we were right. We were wrong, but we were still right.
All right, so we got the Nuggets in 5, and then we got Heat in 7 by Darren. So, of course, obviously, I'm a Miami Heat fan, and I looked up some stats because I was like, how are these two teams matched up? How have they been this season, last season's? Denver's 6-0 against the Heat since 2020 and 2021. 6-0. So we have not found a way to beat them in the last 3 years with Jimmy Butler, mind you, because he's been in all those matchups. Nuggets are 8-0 at home in the postseason. They haven't lost. I know the Heat, I think we're 6-1. We lost that one to Boston. That was our first loss at home. So both teams play well at home. Nuggets have home court advantage. That's a big issue. The Tyler Hero return, I know we touched on a little bit earlier. I think that is going to be so huge for Miami. I think we definitely need him because the Nuggets can score. We saw them against the Lakers just making everything. I felt like every shot that Denver was throwing up was going to go in. Even if it was Aaron Gordon from 3, for some reason, I thought it was going in. And it's not like he's the best three-point shooter in the world, but they're just so deep and so talented. Jimmy Butler, he's going to have to do everything. He's going to have to be the heart and soul like he's been this whole postseason. He's going to have to facilitate. He's going to have to rebound. He's going to have to defend. I could see us putting him on Jamal Murray at moments probably because they'll probably try to slow him down. Bam, you guys both mentioned Bam. He's just going to have to try his best. Just do what you can. It's Jokic, I'm not expecting him to go out there and shut him down. Jokic, though, against Miami this year only averaged 21 points a game. And we lost both games, I think by like 4 and by 6. So maybe bet the spread. That's 8.5. They haven't beaten that this year. But he facilitates. I mean, he does so much other stuff that he just makes people wide open from 3. Everyone on Denver's getting wide open shots. I think we're going to have to do what we did against Boston a little bit. Boston had open shots and they were missing. I think we're going to have to run some zone mixed in, not a lot, but Miami does run a pretty well zone and you're going to have to give them different looks. I know Eric Spoelstra is going to just throw everything he can at them. We had that finals matchup in 2020 against the Lakers. And it was just Jimmy. I mean, Jimmy was exhausted at the end of that series. I remember that, and he just couldn't do it anymore. And we got 2 games, and that was like the most we could get. Caleb Martin, he's going to have to keep doing what he's doing. We're going to have to – the Nuggets honestly looked unbeatable. They really did. I am picking the Heat. Of course, I'm sure you both aren't shocked by that, but I'm picking the Heat in 6. I don't think it goes 7. I think we need to close it out in Miami. I think we take one of these first 2 in Denver, and I'm actually going to say that we take game 1, and I think game 1 we take, then game 2 Denver takes, and then I think we win both in Miami, lose in Denver, come back to Miami and win. I think that's going to have to be how it is. So I'm hopeful, obviously, but I think everyone's just going to have to play out of their mind, and they have been most of the postseason. Bam. Yes, I'm concerned. Bam can't stop Jokic. But honestly, I'm more concerned with his offense at this point because watching him those last 5 games, he could not throw it in when he was like right at the rim, 2 feet away.
He's been
just
struggling.
Missing everything. Yep. Yeah, just struggling. And he's going to have to score. If he doesn't score and there's nothing inside, because Jokic isn't the best defender. So he could actually probably do something to Jokic on the offensive end to try to counteract what Jokic is doing. It's going to be difficult. Maybe that mid-range game, Bam is going to have try to jag Jokic out of the paint. And Jimmy's just going to have to do everything. He's going to have to facilitate. He's going to have to find the open man. He only averaged 20 points a game versus Denver during the regular season. But honestly, when it comes to Jimmy, I don't count the regular season. No. I feel like he kind of coasts. He's not trying to win an MVP award. He's not trying to do any of that. He just wants to make the playoffs.
I think all the regular season stats for the Heat kind of just don't even count for this postseason run. The regular season, that's nonsense. Now that doesn't matter.
Yep.
Yep. I think there's certain guys
honestly,
that you go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I just think there's certain guys in the playoffs that elevate their play. I think, us Kings fans, we saw Malik Monk go from what he was to, really elevating himself a playoff performer. Jimmy's doing that Jimmy's doing that in the postseason. He wasn't this special in the regular season. Still a very good player, undisputed leader of that Heat team, but he wasn't putting up numbers like he is right now.
Exactly. And he's going to have to me, I want to see 30 points a game, probably to be average. I want him to be aggressive because if he's aggressive, they have to double him and then he can find open people. That's going to be the best way. I think I want this so bad for Jimmy Butler. Like as a Heat fan, of course, I want it for Miami and just the team, but I want it for Jimmy Butler almost more than even just for Miami. Like I just want Jimmy to get this ring. Because it's funny, like they were talking about it on SportsCenter about his last postseason runs. 2019, he hurt his ankle with Minnesota, or 2018, and then they got like 4-1. Then he goes to Philly, and the Kawhi Leonard shot happens.
Yep.
So that buzzer beater broke his heart, and Embiid's crying down the tunnel. And then they said, "Oh, well, let's keep Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler." So then we get Jimmy Butler, and the first year, obviously, Lakers beat us 4-2. Then we get swept by Milwaukee the next year in the first round, 4-0'd. Like, didn't even stand a chance. And obviously, that was Milwaukee's championship run, I want to say, right, against Phoenix.
It was.
I mean, they were dominant. And then to lose to Boston in Game 7 off Jimmy Butler's missed three-pointer last year.
And Jimmy was hurt that whole series.
Jimmy was hurt. And then this series, after Game 6, let me tell you, I was just heartbroken. Like I was just like, if this happens to Jimmy again, where it's some buzzer beater stuff that happens. So I really want it for Jimmy Butler. And I know I'm taking a lot of time right now, y'all, but like I need Jimmy Butler to win this ring. I really want him to. Heat in 6, it's gonna happen. They have to win it this year. I just have so much faith in this team. I think Eric Spoelstra is just pushing all the right buttons, and I think we're gonna take it.
Yep, and I got two more quick reasons why the Heat are going to win this series, Ross. Number one, Denver is a very good three-point shooting team, and so are the Celtics until the Miami Heat. I think game 7, 20, 21, 22%, like 9 for 40 or something like that, some crazy shitty number. And so they've shown they can slow down three-point shooting. They're definitely going to have to do that. And then I'm not going to take credit for this thought because it is not my own. I heard it today, and I definitely resonated with it and agreed with it. But there's two really good ways to win an NBA championship in the modern NBA, right? And the number one, the most effective way is star power and just elite talent on the floor, right? We saw it with Shaq and Kobe, Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry, LeBron and D-Wade before D-Wade kind of fell off the cliff and his knees kind of just couldn't go anymore, right? The second best way is to have a cohesive team with one alpha dog. And the Heat have the alpha dog, the undisputed leader. And I don't know if you guys heard this quote by Jimmy Butler, but he went out there and they're asking him about like the role play, talking about Struz, Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin. And he goes, I don't call them that. Those are my teammates, right? So you can tell that they play for each other. There's not like this, star power where, get out of the way, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, they're going to take all the shots. Now, Denver has a little bit of that, right? Like Jokic is definitely the alpha, but Jamal Murray's a budding star. Aaron Gordon was like a highly touted player, coming out of college. Michael Porter Jr., really high draft pick, right? So they got a lot of these guys on their team where Miami, I don't like, referring to them as the undrafted players because they're in the NBA and they've, proven that they belong. I mean, they're in the NBA Finals right now, but I think that's really working for them. If I could look at the most cohesive team and the people that look like they like playing together the most, I think that's the Miami Heat.
Yep. And Jimmy Butler, one more thing, because I don't know if you all saw that Eastern Conference Finals trophy presentation where Bam went to hand him the trophy and he said, no, I'll hold the next one. Like that to me is just Jimmy Butler, and he is honestly the definition of Heat culture. Like he really is. He fits with Miami perfect. He's where he's meant to be, and I'm glad he found this home too because I just can't believe Philly let him go, to be honest with you. Like that still shocks me. So if they had him now, I think they would be in the finals. Like it's just wild world.
As long as James Harden's not there.
That's true. All right, boys. So I have a couple other questions. I'm thinking we do this kind of rapid fire style. So I'm going to throw these questions out there, and then Tyler, you answer, Darren, you answer, and then I'll answer, and we'll just do pretty quick answers about them. All right, how's that sound?
Good.
All right, the biggest surprise of the postseason. It can be a team, player, whoever it is. Go
Do you
for it,
wanna go?
Tyler.
Biggest surprise. I mean, no question. It has to be the Heat. There's no other answer. None of us thought they were gonna beat the Bucks. I didn't think they were gonna make it in the play-in. There's no chance that anything else beats the Heat for biggest surprise.
All right,
All
Darren.
right. And I was gonna say the Lakers getting swept, but then in the moment that was a big because it was LeBron James, Anthony Davis. They just took care of the Warriors, who looked pretty unstoppable. But I'm gonna go with my Nevada alum, Caleb Martin, undrafted, cut by the Hornets. I guess I didn't know this part of the story, but I guess J. Cole got him onto the Heat, and look what he did with his opportunity. And so, going into the playoffs, marginal rotation player, from my understanding, wasn't getting a ton of minutes, and holy shit, he has really come alive. And being a Nevada fan, obviously, I watched him in that run with Nevada, with his twin brother Cody, and that team that they put together with Eric Musselman. And this is what he looked like, taking that funky jump shot with his little kick out leg, his free throw shooting, and just playing scrappy defense, getting to the rim. But I didn't think he could do it in the NBA, so that's really surprised me.
All right, and obviously for me, it's the Miami Heat too. I think they're the biggest surprise. Obviously, I know I picked Bucks to win 4-1. I think you both picked the sweep. Honestly, the only series I was confident in was actually New York. I actually thought, okay, we could win that. The two other series, I thought there was really slim chance. Milwaukee, I thought no chance. Boston, I thought a little bit of a chance just because I was excited. So I would say Miami Heat also. Yeah, already on the run, momentum. All right, next question, Tyler. Biggest disappointment of the postseason?
Kevin Huerter. 100%. Kevin Huerter. I mean, Milwaukee Bucks could be up there with losing to the Heat, but I mean, as a Kings fan, Kevin Huerter. If he was shooting like he did in the regular season, 100% would have beaten the Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
And then Harrison Barnes also. Say that. I know Sabonis disappointed, but I mean, he did impact the game in a ton of other ways. And also credit to Kevon Looney. I mean, he's so much better of a player than I thought he was. But biggest disappointment, Kevin Huerter, 100%.
I don't want to steal yours, Tyler, but when you said Kevin Huerter, I was definitely going to say I one up you and see you at Harrison Barnes. But honestly, those two, I think from a Kings fan perspective, that was the biggest disappointment or letdown, because we watched them all season. I mean, Harrison Barnes isn't what he used to be, right? But he was steady, consistent, would hit his threes, kind of be that, when shit kind of got out of control and was hitting the fan, he'd slow it down. Kevin Huerter, my God, dude, like he started off track, and so did Keegan Murray. But Keegan, rookie, found a way to get back on track. Yeah. Kevin Huerter kept shooting, credit to him. Mike Brown kept him in the starting lineup. Trust, he just couldn't get it. I'm going to say, just from the overall scope of looking at the NBA and what we expected, I think Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks are the biggest disappointment this year, because we all thought, honestly, they're going to tromp the Heat, walk their way to the NBA Finals, walk their way to another NBA championship. And not only did they not do that, they couldn't even put up with the 8 seed Miami Heat in a series that, honestly, Giannis had a really good matchup and should have done a lot more work than he did. I get like he was a little dinged up and hurt, but just a disappointment. And I understand what Giannis was saying in a press conference. Like there's no failure in sports, and I agree with him 100%. Like that's a great, healthy perspective, and I think that's something that people need in sports, especially young people. When they go through failure, you got to have that perspective. But that's not what you want to hear as a Milwaukee Bucks fan after you just lose to the 8 seed Miami Heat with the team that you had. So I think that Giannis, kind of dropped the ball here and didn't own up to it, and kind of say the right things at the end of it. So I'm gonna go with Giannis and the Bucks.
All right, and I like both of those answers, because Kevin Huerter, when I was watching him too, I was frustrated. And I know I'm a Miami Heat fan, but I was like, these are so open. Like, I was like, they're just wide open. They're not even being guarded.
As a King fan, I have to say Kevin Huerter. I mean, it was so frustrating to watch, because it got to a point where you would see him throw up a shot, and even if he was open, it would be like, oh, great, just because he was having such a bad such a bad series that you know, and during the regular season, if he was shooting, it was like, oh, great, perfect. You know,
Yep.
that's going to be money.
You wanted those shots.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but then in the playoffs, it was like I was watching Giannis throw up those threes or something. I was like, oh, great. You know, give it
So
to anybody else.
We talked briefly about, like Jimmy Butler, Malik Monk elevating when the lights got bright. Do we think Kevin Herter lights got too bright and he just couldn't handle it, got in that funk? You're going against the defending champions, the Golden State Warriors. You got Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry on the other side. Do you think he, just got in that slump and just couldn't turn it around in that funk for the entire series? Or do we think this is the playoff Herter that we're going to expect from now on?
I think he thought too much.
I don't see it being constant.
Because, think about his free throw percentage isn't even that good, and you would think Herter has a great free throw percentage. I think he's a player that can't think, and so I mean, I think when he gets to the free throw line, there's no chance he should be a bad free throw shooter.
Yep,
maybe he gets too much in his head. I think, during the playoffs, maybe he was way too in his head.
I think he started questioning. I think he started saying, what's wrong? Why am I not? Then maybe even start looking at your shot and see if you're doing anything different. I don't see it happening any constant. I mean, we saw him in Atlanta, and I know the stage wasn't as bright, but we saw him in Atlanta do great in the postseason. So we know he can do it. My biggest disappointment for the season, Joel Embiid. Because you win the MVP. And you go out there, and I think, what did he average against Boston? Like 22 points a game or something? Maybe not even that. And for Joel Embiid to always be, I want the MVP. I can't believe I didn't win the MVP. And for you to go out there and be up 3-2 against Boston and then lose 2 in a row and just get demolished in Game 7. And you want to say that Jokic didn't deserve, his last 2. Well, he's in the NBA Finals now, and Joel Embiid is sitting at home and didn't even make it to Eastern Conference Finals. So for me, it's Joel Embiid. I was disgusted.
In his press conference, he went and said, he went out there and said, like, me and James Harden need some help. Like, bro, you're the MVP. James
you're the MVP.
Also, former MVP.
Him and Harden were the ones that did terrible.
Yep.
So do you think, especially if Jokic wins the finals, do you think this goes down as one of those MVPs with an asterisk on it?
Oh yeah, I think it is.
Yes.
Joker.
Yes. Yeah. I would rather see Joker three-peat than him win this and then not go anywhere
and
with it.
It's funny because it was because you can't give an MVP 3 times to somebody who hasn't been to the finals, and then what happens?
Yep.
Because when you start talking about 3-peat MVPs, it's a very, very short list. I can't even actually tell you with confidence who's 3-peated on an MVP. So you can't do it to someone who doesn't have a history of winning anything.
That's true. All right, I got 2 more quick questions. All right, this next one, it kind of goes towards next season, but I was curious about this because it has been in talk a little bit. Jaylen Brown, if you're Boston, do you re-sign him or do you let him go somewhere else? Tyler, what do you think?
Oh my God, what a bad series for him too.
Putting y'all on the spot with this question. Putting y'all on the spot with this one.
Drafted him, built around him. I don't think they're going to want to see him go, but the money he's asking.
Was it $295, insane. Right? Or something he can get?
I can't remember.
5 for $295.
Yeah. I think Boston's gonna. I think they're gonna. He's such a good player. Just maybe he just disappeared. I don't know. Maybe he gets it back next year. But yeah, I think Boston's gonna re-sign him.
All right, Darren.
So I don't think you can re-sign him because you re-sign him this year. You got Tatum coming next year, and you're definitely signing Tatum. You can't pay Jaylen Brown $54 million a year and Jason Tatum $61 million a year because that's what you're looking at. Because then who's going to be left on this team, right? And you know what? I get it, they are young, but they played at a young age. They have plenty of reps. They're not 26 and 25-year-olds, normal 26, 25-year-olds in the NBA. So I think if I was Boston, I'd look for a trade, try to get, more pieces around Jason Tatum before you sign him to that big supermax that's coming next year. Again, not my own thoughts. I heard some of these trade proposals on Twitter and through the different podcasts. Who's to say you don't call the Memphis Grizzlies and offer Jaylen Brown for John Morant and a first round pick? Do you think Memphis pauses and thinks about that for a second? Who's to say you don't call the Minnesota Timberwolves and offer Jaylen Brown for Karl Anthony Towns in a first? I think Minnesota might be interested in that, right? Selfishly, I'd love him on the Kings as well. I think he's a really good player. I just don't see how. I'm sure the Celtics want to. I just don't see how they can make it work and still be competitive in East.
All right. Oh, it's tough. I think because I agree with what Tyler's saying too. They drafted him. They love Jaylen Brown there. Jason Tatum, though, is the guy, as we know, and Jaylen Brown to me is that second. I don't think Jaylen Brown is good enough to be a star on his own team. I definitely think he's a number 2. He's not a number 1. He needs to work on a couple things because he's a great player. But his handles, I saw him dribble off of his foot like 4 or 5 times or something during the series.
God, it was so frustrating to watch.
Yeah, it was like it looked like just us doing a crossover at Olive Grove,
I saw a video of him going to his left, and it was every time he goes to his left, he would dribble it off of his foot. It was terrible. Like,
and in the NBA, it's like you gotta be better than that. So I think they're gonna try to deal him too. I think it's gonna be some type of trade. If I am maybe Portland, maybe you send him out there with Damian Lillard and give Damian Lillard another star. Although I think Portland's going to go after Karl Anthony Towns is a rumor too. I like that.
Do you trade him for Damian Lillard?
What would you? Yeah, you traded in the second pick or what?
The pick. No, you keep Dame.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you keep Dame. Keep Dame. Yeah, you keep Dame.
What do they have, the second or third?
Third. I think you're right. Third pick. I would trade the third and Simons. He's a good ball player. They have a couple pieces there. And if you get
he would on the Celtics too.
He would be. The Celtics would be nice if they got Simons and that third pick. I mean, that'd be huge for Austin. And then honestly, because I think it's almost time to just give Tatum the reins and just don't even – because Brown has been some drama in Boston too, hasn't he, a little bit? Like there's been some stuff.
For the past 2 years, I think.
2 years, right?
Does he even want to be there? Because, he doesn't sound super happy in the press conferences. There's all these trade rumors surrounding him. And also, we don't treat anybody else like we do Jason Tatum. If this was LeBron James, we'd be killing LeBron James. If this was Joel Embiid, we are killing Joel Embiid. This is Giannis, we kill Giannis. We're all killing Jaylen Brown for this series, right? Tatum has been shit in the fourth quarter all series, and Jaylen Brown's again. I'm saying peace out of here. I'm not doing this, right? Jason Tatum can have this team. I'm getting all the blame. Yeah.
Yep. So I think they got to just trade him. I think you get something for him, get some good picks, and surround Tatum with shooters, surround him with maybe a good playmaker. And I know they have shooters. And honestly, Boston's already a deep team, but I think you can get an even deeper rotation like Denver did. If you surround Tatum with something like that, I think you could go really far.
Yep.
All right, last question. Most memorable moment of the postseason for you? Most memorable moment. I can assume what you two might talk about, but I want to hear from it. Go ahead, Tyler. Last question.
Man, off the top of my head, I would really say the most memorable, unfortunately, is the heartbreak of Harrison Barnes' shot.
Oh, no.
What sucks is there's so many great moments, right? But instantly when I think of the playoffs, I think Harrison Barnes' shot strictly because of the fact that the drama with Draymond Green, right? And I'm not talking about the Sabonis drama. I'm talking about how he went on his podcast and was talking about how he was, or I don't remember whose podcast, but I think he was with Damian Lillard, I think actually, and he was talking about how he wasn't invited to the wedding or something, and all that stuff, right? So there's drama between them. It's his previous team, well, besides the Mavs, but his previous team, and he has a chance to. I mean, if he makes that shot, Kings would have ended up moving on,
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't have gotten a much better look. That was as great of a look as he could have gotten. But yeah, unfortunately, that's what sticks to me the most.
Well, wow, I thought you were going to say a happy moment, and now I'm sorry I asked this
No, I'm
question,
telling you,
Tyler.
yeah,
I didn't want that moment to come
that's
back
what's
to
crazy
you.
is the most memorable moment for me is like the heartbreak of seeing that just bounce off the back of the iron. Oh my god, that was terrible. And then seeing the bench's reaction, the video that came out of the slow mo, just seeing them run out and get all excited. Also,
That
Davion
was
Mitchell
heartbreaking
starting
for
to
them.
run out on the court.
Mhm.
Oh man, it was the assistant coach just sitting there and looking down. Everything. I mean, there was just so much. That
All
was
right,
tough.
Darren. Most
All
memorable
right.
moment.
So first off, Tyler, that's just the epitome of Kings fans. Like we've been through so much shit, right? You talk about like, hey, Kings fans, what do you remember most? And like there has been good, right? You know what we remember? We remember Robert Ory's goddamn shot. We remember
Yep.
Chris Webber blowing out his knee and getting stretchered
Why
out
did-
of
By
the
the
why
stadium.
way,
did the ball
I
out?
think today's the anniversary of Robert Ory's shot.
Yeah, we're not talking
So
about that.
Why did Vladdy tip it? Why didn't he just
Bloody man, we could have a whole podcast about this. But and looking back at that series, like I remember Draymond stomping on Sponis's chest. I remember Clay's and 1-3 at the end of the quarter. Big heartbreaker. I remember Curry hitting a three, throwing his mouthpiece, I think, and screaming like the effing beam. So all this bad stuff because the trauma sticks with you. But I am gonna say a positive note because I was lucky enough to go to game one. Thank you, Logan. Shout out for getting me there. Dream come true. But the feeling in that stadium when the lights went down and the fire came out and Scott Moak gets on the mic and goes, "It's time," and he goes on there, announces the King starting lineup, and you couldn't hear Scott Moak, you couldn't hear anything. All you could hear is everybody just going nuts, and I got goosebumps, like tears almost in my eyes because 17 years is a long time. Like we were little kids when the last time the Kings were in the playoffs. Like we didn't comprehend basketball like we are now, and just the emotions that I think came with that. Right, like this team was almost ripped away from us twice. We were the laughing stock of the league for so long. We've had our star players leave us, traded away, not want to be in Sacramento, and then just going through all the shit that we went through, just having that moment, like honestly, like this is gonna sound bad, but like we could have gotten swept and I still would have like top 10 moment of my entire life right there in that stadium. It's amazing that it went 7. I'm so glad that we won that game, but just like being in that stadium and like the accumulation of the last 17 years to like that night, like you could feel that energy, and something I'm gonna hold with me forever, and that's what I'm gonna take away from these playoffs no matter what happens.
all right, and honestly, like the whole city of Sacramento was just amazing during that series.
Oh, yeah.
And it would have been great to see them go to round 2 because just seeing them go further and further. But it's something to build off of. This was the Kings' first year back in the playoffs, and for them, they took them 7 games. I mean, they played incredible, honestly. In the end, to go 7 games with the Golden State Warriors, I mean, that's impressive.
It was a good series, man.
Most memorable moment for me, I'm kind of between a couple. Because to me, one like memorable moment is Troll Jimmy because I just think it's freaking hilarious how he just trolls and he notices everything on the court. But I'm actually probably gonna say the tip in he had against Milwaukee because I feel like that tip in, if that didn't happen, I don't know what would have happened in that series. That changed. I know we were already up 3-1, I believe, actually, because I think that was the closeout game. But you don't want to go further games against Milwaukee. You don't want to give them any hope when it's Giannis and them on the other side. So to me, that tip in was just crazy because I remember with 2 seconds left and they just threw it into him and he just leans back, grabs it with one hand, throws it in. It was the most memorable moment for me for sure this postseason, and I think it turned the whole Heat playoff run around to just keep it going.
Yep.
All right, fellas. Well, that's the end of the podcast today. Go Miami Heat. I know we're all in agreement with that, right, Tyler? Hey, Boston's out now, Tyler, so it's okay, dude. And Kings. You good now? Heat?
No, I'm actually going for Denver. Sorry.
Oh, my God. It's never ending. So we got Nuggets in 5, Heat in 7 by Darren, and Heat in 6 by me. So we'll see how this pans out. All right, fellas. We'll catch y'all soon. Thank you from Sports and Seltzers.